Puss in Boots died 8 times and didn't care. He threw himself off cliffs, walked into fights he couldn't win, laughed while buildings collapsed around him. 9 lives. He treated every single one like spare change. Then he had one left. A wolf showed up, and for the first time in his life, the cat who was afraid of nothing couldn't stop shaking. People call this movie an adventure. It's actually a brutal mirror. It's the most honest thing any animated film has ever said about what fear does to you, especially when you finally have something to lose. You almost missed the point for the exact same reason he did. You were too busy performing the version of yourself that never gets scared. Because as long as you act bulletproof, you don't have to admit how terrified you really are of caring. Let's back up. Puss doesn't start out afraid. He starts invincible, and he means it. The opening sequence, that's the Puss you remember. Hat, boots, sword, the grin, the crowd chanting his name while he fights a giant made of stone. He's the legend who laughs at death because death has never been real to him. He burns a life mid-fight and doesn't even blink. The crowd gasps. He adjusts his hat. But here's the thing, that's not bravery. When you've got 9 lives, courage is free. We all do this. We mistake our safety nets for actual strength. You can jump off anything, fight anyone, take any hit, because the cost is always 0. Puss thought he was a legend, but he was just a guy who never had to pay the bill. He just didn't know the net was running out. Then comes the doctor's scene. After the giant fight, he's at a vet. The doctor looks at him and drops the cold truth we all eventually face. The safety net is gone. He's on his last life, and this one doesn't come back. Watch his face. Underneath the swagger, something changes. It's not fear yet. It's worse. It's the crushing realization his entire legend was a fraud. He wasn't brave. He was just burning through lives he could afford to waste. And now, the account is empty. So he does what any of us do when the net drops. He makes his world painfully small. But here's the trick. He doesn't call it hiding. He talks himself into believing he's just being smart. He gives up the sword, the boots, the hat, and moves in with the cat lady. He trades the unpredictable danger of living for the guaranteed numbness of surviving. The litter box isn't just a joke. It's the ultimate symbol of a life where you never have to try again. The legend of Puss in Boots doesn't go out with a dramatic defeat, but by quietly giving up and calling it common sense. The easy version of this is a midlife crisis, but that's just the surface. And the movie only keeps you there long enough to set up what's actually coming. But the wolf was already waiting before Puss even realized he was scared. He rolls into the bar while Puss is still performing, still trying to convince himself the swagger is real. Red eyes, 2 sickles, whistling. He's not there for money or fame. He's the one contract you can't charm, bribe, or talk your way out of. He's the reality you've been ignoring. And when they fight, something happens that never happened to Puss in any story. He gets cut, not killed. Cut. A small wound on his forehead, and the wolf just watches him bleed. That single cut is the brutal truth of the whole movie. For 8 lives, Puss lived in a world without consequences. You either survived or you died and came back. There was no middle ground. No wound stayed, no scar lasted past the reset. But this blood on his face isn't going away. It's the proof he's finally terrifyingly fragile. This is where the protagonist complex shatters. You realize you're not the hero of some script where it all just works out. You're just someone who can be hurt. And so, the cat who never ran from anything runs from a wolf who barely even tried. Quick pause. If part of you is secretly judging a cartoon cat right now for being a coward, hit subscribe. Because in about 60 seconds, I'm going to prove he's doing exactly what you do. So let's look at what the film is actually doing to you. For the first act, you're annoyed watching Puss hide. You want the old Puss back. The brave one, the funny one, the one who doesn't flinch. But that discomfort you feel watching someone be afraid, that's you rejecting his fear exactly the way he does. The film turned you into his mirror without asking permission. You and Puss are running the exact same broken code. You think fear's weakness, and weakness is unacceptable. And the movie won't tell you that until the very end. Enter the wishing star. 1 wish. He decides to get his lives back. Not 8 more chances to live, but 8 more chances not to care. That's the wish underneath the wish. He doesn't want to live more. He wants to go back to a version of himself where dying didn't matter, where he could be reckless, call it bravery, and never have to carry the exhausting weight of a single choice actually counting. Then Kitty Softpaws shows up. She's got her own damage. Puss literally left her at the altar. She trusted someone and they vanished. Now she wants the wish too. But her defense mechanism is different. She doesn't want bravery or glory. She wants a guarantee. She built walls so high nobody can hurt her again. And she wants the wish just for proof someone will stay. And then there's Perito, the dog nobody wanted, abandoned and kicked out, yet completely unprotected. No armor, no legend, no cynicism. Just a small dog who keeps showing up with his heart wide open, even when every person who ever had him decided he wasn't worth keeping. 3 characters, 3 deeply human responses to trauma. Puss fakes it. Kitty blocks it out. Perito embraces it, and the movie's about to brutally test all 3. The wolf couldn't care less about the wish. He just follows Puss, showing up in the background, appearing when nobody else can see him, whistling that same haunting melody. So Puss starts unraveling. The movie animates fear the way it actually works in real life, as a total betrayal of your own body. It's not a dramatic movie scream. It's a chest that forgets how to breathe, eyes that won't focus, a body that just stops obeying. The fearless legend, shaking on the ground over a whistle. They hid the most accurate portrayal of a panic attack into a children's movie about a cat. But here's what makes the wolf so terrifying. He's not a bounty hunter. He's death, literal death. He doesn't fight like someone trying to win. He fights like someone who already won and is just waiting for you to realize it. He doesn't chase, he walks. Because death doesn't need to run, you're not going anywhere he can't follow. And Puss's panic isn't actually about the wolf. It's about finality. It's the crushing realization every moment is now being spent, not stored, and there's no reset at the bottom of the fall. That's the fear underneath every fear you and I have ever felt. We aren't terrified of a specific monster. We're terrified life doesn't give do-overs. We're terrified this is the only run we get, and we might just be wasting it. You've been running from your own wolf, not literal death, but the reality that showed up when your safety net disappeared. The first time a failure was permanent. The exact moment you realized the margin for error you had counted on your whole life was never actually there. And you handled it exactly the way Puss did. You stopped. You found a version of safe that didn't require you to risk anything. You just got smaller. Not because you wanted to, but because small was the only size that didn't feel dangerous. You traded the boots for the litter box and called it growing up. You convinced yourself playing it safe and hiding is just what smart adults do. But the wolf doesn't leave when you shrink. That's the terrifying part nobody tells you. You can build the safest, quietest life possible, never take another risk, and that whistle is still there. Because fear doesn't negotiate with the size of your life. It takes whatever you give it and asks for more. You didn't get safer by getting smaller. You just gave the exact same fear a smaller room to fill. So the wish falls apart. The journey breaks down. Kitty leaves because Puss can't stop performing, even when the mask is destroying the only real thing he has left. And he ends up exactly where he started, alone, with the wolf standing in front of him. No more lives to gamble, no more legend to hide behind. And the wolf finally says it. I don't like you. You don't respect death. You don't respect what you have. That's not a villain speech. That's a clinical diagnosis. Puss burned through 8 lives exactly how we burn through our years when we think there's always tomorrow, recklessly, acting like time is a currency that only runs out for other people. And then comes the moment. He puts the boots back on, picks up the sword, looks death in the eyes and says, my last life is going to be lived. He doesn't say, I'm not afraid. He doesn't magically become invincible again. He is absolutely terrified. You can see his hands shaking as he draws the sword. But he fights anyway, not the way he used to, laughing and treating it like a game. He fights like a guy who finally understands every single second has a price. He blocks the sickles. He holds his ground. And the wolf, death, looks at him, smiles with something that looks like respect, and walks away. Because death wasn't actually there to kill him. Death was there to see if he'd finally live like it mattered. That's not bravery. That's the raw, terrifying truth that comes after the performance drops. The safety net burns, and you're standing at the edge of your only life with one brutal choice: shrink or show up. I know this feeling. There was a stretch of time where I made every decision based on what couldn't hurt me, not what I wanted, just what was safe. I turned down things that excited me because excitement meant exposure, and exposure meant feeling the fall for real this time. I was Puss at the cat lady's house, alive, technically. Living? No. One night, someone asked me what I actually wanted, not the safe answer, the real one. And I sat there when I couldn't get the words out, and somewhere in the back of my head, there was a whistle. But I said it anyway, and nothing collapsed. The moment you open your mouth, say the thing you've been editing out for years, and realize the wolf was only ever as big as the silence you were keeping. If you love finding this kind of brutal psychology hidden inside the movies we grew up with, hit subscribe and click the video on your screen because putting the boots on isn't about being unafraid. It's proof that this time you're actually living.